Representative Duran, good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Good. How was your drive in?
It wasn't too bad. The roads aren't too bad. Little icy, but plows are doing a good job of clearing out the roads right now.
So with all the attention with the fraud, we'll just leave it at that. What else are you? There's stuff being worked on. I'm hoping, right, that everybody's taken care of from their district and who they represent, because obviously there's attention and investigation on that.
Yeah, and having the fraud within the state of Minnesota right now, I think it's shining a light on all the different programs that are ran by the state of Minnesota everywhere. So I don't necessarily believe it's just in Minneapolis. I think it's light is being shown down on just on everywhere in the state of Minnesota.
I saw a report that in New Hampshire there's this it's been discovered, and it falls under the COVID PPP. There wasn't a lot of
oversight.
Yes, thanks, Schulte.
Yeah.
Right, or processes, which I think we all as taxpayers.
Those are all thrown together pretty
quickly.
fast. So
the accountability was not there.
Yeah, and I've talked to many people about the PPP loans in regards to like how they were administered, how they were monitored, and when the state, when the federal government and the state just kind of just threw all this stuff together, and they kept changing everything. So so people had to redo these applications multiple times just to be able to get their money, because they changed so drastically, so quick before they were done with the application. They were having to resubmit.
I know for when that happened, who can forget? And you were allocated revenue, right, for your business to operate, to pay the people. And for what we did it by the book, it lasted 2.5 months. Some folks, how they did it, I don't know, but I figured it would eventually catch up. Eventually people would say, hey.
So with the PPP loan stuff, it's going to be really tough to actually prosecute that, because it opened up to everybody, and the laws were so vague, and just from what I'm have been told from the bankers and everybody, that it's going to be very tough to be able to track or prosecute people because of those PPP loans, because of how they were implemented or how they were rolled out. It was just free for all. So that's a big portion of money that the federal government is lost out just because of that, because I'm assuming just because of all the fraud that happened in the state of Minnesota with our own money, I would assume that people are taking advantage of money all over the place.
If you could get it. Yep.
Are you anticipating the divide between both sides of the aisle to be even further because of this?
I do. I believe that there is going to be some tensions that are coming down, because on the Republican side of things, we're wanting to tighten the belt a little bit, because we're looking at a deficit still. It might be $3 billion, but we have to be a little bit more fiscally responsible because of your tax dollars, and we owe it to you as being your representatives and your elected officials. We owe it to the people to be responsible with the money. So I believe that Republicans are going to want to clamp down on the fraud a little bit more than I believe the Democrats are.
Should be rules and accountability and a process to everything else. If you get money, you get money from a bank.
There is, but where's that oversight? Because there's a lot of mismanagement that's going on within the state government right now, and this hasn't been. It's not just a yesterday thing. These frauds, these scams have not just popped up just in the last week. They've been going on for years, and there's been whistleblowers for years in the state of Minnesota that has fallen on deaf ears in regards to the Attorney General's office. There's been a lot of complaints in there, but no one has done anything on the state level. And when you ask Attorney General Keith Ellison, what he's doing, and it's just he's
running again.
He is running again, but you got to think about, he's been caught on tape, battling with the state of Minnesota, who's his client. Like, he's supposed to be the guy who's protecting us, and he's telling people that he's willing to go to war with us. And, that's a little ridiculous to me.
I'm not an economist, but I can do math. How do we go from a $6 billion deficit
Yep.
2 months ago to now just a $3 billion deficit, but oh wait, in 2 more years it's going to be just as bad again?
Yes.
How do we come up with these numbers?
Well, these are the smartest people in the state of Minnesota coming up with these numbers. So when this last session, when we established the budget, we actually had one of the biggest cuts in Minnesota history of $5 billion to our budget. So we actually fought to make sure that we actually started reining these programs in and looking at the future. So the Republicans fought real hard to clamp down on this right away. So that helped with the situation that we have right now. But if we continue the spending that we are, it's just we're going to blow the budget out again. So there's no we have to change where we're spending our money. We have a lot of first-time programs that are out there that we're spending millions of dollars to that came from the $18 billion surplus. We got to remember that $18 billion surplus was one-time monies for a lot of things, right? So it wasn't a continuous fund coming in, right? So that $18 billion surplus was just for one-time monies, that's it. Well, we started a bunch of programs, and we gave a bunch of programs with that $18 billion surplus. So now that's becoming our problem for the tax rolls. So there's a big issue when it comes to that, and we need to figure out what is smart with the state of Minnesota and how we're going to help out our community. But we also need to understand that we're not going to be able to help anybody if we're looking at a $6 billion deficit.
Well, everybody always says we're highly taxed. We're a high tax state.
Yes, we are.
And so when that comes with programs or roads or the ability to live here. And I was thinking, well, then it's obviously if this fraud can happen and we're still operating, but it did create a larger deficit.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we actually still have a surplus in the state of Minnesota right now. It's a small surplus, but if we spend that money, it's only going to magnify a hard deficit coming in, in the near future. So we are highly taxed as a state of Minnesota. And I don't think anybody would have a problem with our money going towards public safety or roads and streets and everything else, right? Like there's a balance there, but there's a lot of our money going to particular programs that aren't necessarily there to help the whole. And we need to be able to rein those funds back in and be a little bit more responsible. Living in northern Minnesota, especially where we are, we have a high tax county just because we don't have the population, we don't have the the businesses and things too. So if we continuously keep raising taxes, which there's been multiple Democrats that have said we just need to raise taxes to get us out of this deficit. Well, what does that solve? Well, it's going to put you, me, and everybody else in a hurt, right?
Well, there's not going to be there will always be people or programs needing more money or new money, so that's not going to stop.
No. You
got to keep taxing?
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you keep taxing and raising the cost on everything else, if you keep taxing, let's say, for housing, we can't afford affordable housing right now. We can't find affordable housing right now, but if we keep taxing every entity within the state of Minnesota, it's only going to rise those rents.
Right.
So it's only going to increase the rents and push people out. So when you start looking at raising the taxes, you're not only affecting the 80-year-old on a fixed income, you're actually affecting the lower class as well, because they're having to buy some products and everything else, so they're limiting what they can afford with everything, and it becomes a bigger issue, and we need to be more fiscally responsible as the state of Minnesota. And maybe it wouldn't be bad if we just started out with a zero budget, just zero it out and look at what we truly need and go from there. But
do you have any good news for us?
Right?
Well, it's a nice morning. I came in, it was still pretty good, but I wish I had a little bit better news on the economic side of the state of Minnesota right now, but I hope people are paying attention. I hope people are looking into this, and we need a change in the state of Minnesota right now. And we, as Northern Minnesota, we need to come together as a community. You know, it doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican. We're all going to hurt the same.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, these are some of the bigger issues that you know, living in Northern Minnesota, we tend to be a little bit more of a community base, and we need to focus on that to make sure everybody can thrive up here. So,
will you be introducing any legislation this year?
Yes, I will. I'll be introducing probably a lot of legislation here. You know, I've already have a bill drafted that would so that emergency funding with the big storm that came through. Well, the state of Minnesota only covers 75% of that. So I'll be introducing a bill that's going to help hopefully get us the extra 25%. So that will give us a huge reimbursement back to the city and counties and our area for that. And then I also have a bill that I'm going to be working.
Just for here or for every disaster going forward?
It's just going to be for us in our area, and who was actually, you know, affected by that big storm. So. I do have a bill that I'm looking at drafting that would actually give disaster areas a break on sales tax for any kind of equipment or services that they needed to be able to recover from the storm. Any area that's actually a disaster area, you know, kind of claimed by the state of Minnesota as a disaster area, they would actually get a reimbursement on the sales tax from all the services and equipment and stuff that they would actually buy. So I've got a bill drafted already for that. I'm hoping that we can actually, you know, give more money back to our people up here and try to save people. I don't think the state of Minnesota should benefit off a disaster at all. So these are some of the things that I'm looking outside the box of how to give money back to our community, how to keep the money here. But, you know, we're all, you know, there's a lot of people out here on fixed income, and, you know, having to spend these extra dollars to go to a recovery, I think the state of Minnesota shouldn't benefit off the back of you. So,
well, the day after I had to go to a store to get a garbage can because I have no idea where mine went. The lady in front of me was buying 2 generators at $2,500 a pop.
Yes.
My $30 garbage can didn't seem so bad anymore.
Right.
No, yeah. And you have a lot of people like that were doing that, and, you know, again, you know, those sales, so it would be retroactive, this bill, so we can actually go back to the whole 2025. So if there's any declaration of a disaster in the state of Minnesota, you would be able to get that sales tax money back from any of the equipment or services or anything. I'm hoping that will pass. We got to get a support for that because, you know, I think it just helps our regular folk out here.
Oh yeah, because it was an expense nobody planned for.
No, and like I said, the state of Minnesota should not benefit off the backs of the people in a disaster. I feel strongly about that.
That plans for the holidays?
Yeah, try to get up north, go fishing. You know, maybe get out of the area a little bit. And my in-laws live in International Falls, so I'll be up there. You know, maybe do some crappie fishing up on the lake up there. So,
perfect.
Rainy Lake. Just get away from the area a little bit.
Well, because we'll see you after the holidays.
Oh yeah. And then you know, the session starts February 17th, so. If anybody listening here has any issues or want to sit down before that, please reach out. Let me know. We really got to start hearing some of the concerns, especially up in this area. And I've been listening to a lot of folk, you know, especially about the insurance stuff that's been going around here. I've been working with local elected officials to try to figure out what we can work on to get some more clarification with some insurance stuff here. You know, maybe some legislation here in the future to maybe, you know, bring things a little bit more transparent for people in regards to their policies.
Good luck with that one.
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to work, but we've been talking to a lot of people about that, and you know, we're trying to help out the community as much as possible. And we understand that this is a trying time for a lot of people, especially with insurance companies, and maybe they're on their fourth or fifth adjuster, and they're just kind of getting the runaround. We need to figure out a way that we can help those people and really get a good understanding of why this is needed. Why 4 or 5 adjusters? Like what does that even mean? What happened to the first 4?
Sure. Well, thanks for stopping by. We appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for having me, guys.